So, how is everybody feeling? How's your market? Open that chat box and show me how the market's doing. Show me how you're feeling overall. And that's kind of where we're going to start and go today. Heidi, I see your face. Hi, Megan. Feeling great. I love it. Are you guys feeling busy? Are you feeling great? Always looking for leads. That's what we're here for. We're going to hopefully lead you with some great places to go today. So, all right, here's what we're going to talk about. I titled this the 90-day business plan reset, okay? Because here we are, end of May. Can you even believe it's the end of May? Every time I say where we are, it goes faster and faster and faster. Anyways, here we are. We're at the end of May. So we are facing our last month of the first half of this year, right? And since we in real estate build business 90 days ahead of time, right? You are working today for the business that you're going to see come to fruition in your fall and lead you into winter. Okay. Now, that is crucial time in your business, right? So, number one, we're ending our first half. This is time to really take a look at where am I? What's worked this year? What could I have done differently or better for the second half of the year? Am I on track? Am I off track? Right? So it's a very crucial time in your business, number one. The very crucial time in your personal life as well, right? Because it's summer and the weather's beautiful. We want to be outside more. Our energy and our minds get rejuvenated, right? And we get distracted with all the fun stuff that we want and need to do. I don't know about you. If you have kids, my kids are home. Very distracting to work when that happens. And your clients may have their kids at home, right? Which makes your job harder to manage because everyone's a little crazy right now for the next couple months, right? And we feel it. So that's why we want to take this reset, right? I want you guys to really understand how important this time is. You want to be distracted. You want to go have fun. You deserve to go enjoy your summer with your kids. And we cannot stall our business while we have that happen, right? We cannot stall our business while we allow summer and this crucial time to come in, okay? So that's where we're going to start today. Here's what I want you to think about. What are your days structured with? Are you feeling reactive? Are you feeling like you're putting out a lot of fires? Are you feeling like the day is not your own? That's what I hear a lot right now. I'm feeling like I'm just reactive. I'm going here, I'm going there, I'm going for where the fires are taking me. And I'm not having the ability to be as productive and purposeful as I would like to be in my day and in my life. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Let me present here because I want it to look better for you guys. And I'm going to share the screen. I want you to just take a look at this. And I want you to think about these words. And are you busy? And are you busy and building business or busy in lieu of building business? Okay. Are you falling to the things on the left of this list? That's totally normal this time of year. And it's really important for you to take the time in yourself and your business to say, am I functioning in this left part? Right? And how might I get more into this CEO mode? And I use that all the time with you. I want you thinking like a CEO. I want you thinking like a business owner. You are building an extremely lucrative business right here. Real estate is a business that has the opportunity to make you lots of money if you want it. And if you've got momentum, don't let it stall right now because you get confused because you are so stinking busy, right? I guarantee you are all very busy with all the things that I said at the beginning. And you have to remember that you're still building business, okay? So I want you really thinking like a CEO here. I want you having clear priorities, really protecting your calendar, right? Here's the other thing. Most of your calendar wants to go be distracted, okay? And that's okay. It needs to happen, right? Those fires are important. Your family is important. Getting out in the sunshine is key, yeah. right? And we just have to make sure that we're putting the most important things first so that it can all happen, right? When you have a clear schedule and clear priorities and know exactly what you do, it makes it a lot easier for your brain and your energy to help you manage this. Okay, so today we're going to do these four things. All right, we're going to kind of look at where your business is right now, and we're going to create a really clear 90-day plan. We're going to look at what does your calendar need to look like now to implement that plan in the next 90 days, right? What do you need to start today? If your brain works sometimes like a high C like mine, I'm going to have to start June 1st. Weird and true, but here it comes. It's next week. Okay. You got to make sure your calendar matches that. Then it comes down to your habits. What habits are you doing daily to make sure you're going to hit those goals? And how are you watching if the habits are working? Okay. And that's your tracking. All right. So a CEO goes into their day knowing exactly what they're doing, right? Many times in real estate, we find the day deciding for us what we're going to do, right? If you get out of bed and have the idea, hey, where's this day going to take me? I'm just going to see where it goes, right? You're already starting your day in a reactive mode. A CEO and someone with a really clear vision about their business, they know exactly where they're going. They know when their feet hit the ground, what they're walking out the door to do. They're clear about that. It's measured and they're watching where it's going throughout the time. Okay? So I want you thinking in CEO mode on the right. Okay? And that's what we're going to do today. I want you to take a minute, look at the bottom here. Think about these four modes you could be working in. Where are you finding yourself most often? Are you feeling reactive? Are you feeling overly busy? A common thing I'm hearing right now, everyone needs more hours in the day. I'm hearing that from 98% of the agents that I talk to right now. If I could wave a magic wand and give you one thing, what would it be? They all say more hours. And I guarantee those more hours, everybody, is so that you do your lead generation, right? That's the last thing that's going to fill in the more hours, right? But not if you're thinking like a CEO here. What did you guys find? What mode do you feel like you're operating in right now? Are you trying to stay in CEO mode? I'm sure some of you are and really watching it and running it in CEO mode. Some of you are avoiding the numbers and the important things. That's a really common thing. The tracking stops during the summer. I see that a lot. Tracking stops during the summer. And it's one of the most important things you've got to keep doing. Because here's what I'm going to say. It's like your report card at school, right? If you have to go every day and write down, how did I do today? If I'm going to grade myself on this week, right? What am I going to tell myself? In the summer, I found myself, if I looked backwards and I hadn't done that work, I'm like, oh my God, I was a D or an F for 9 weeks in a row, right? Now, if I was at least watching it, I knew I was at a C, right? And at least being at a C for 4 weeks in a row was a lot better than absolutely failing for 8, right? That's the important part. It is not to be perfect all the time, but it is to know at what level you're focusing and being able to measure that. So if your tracking has fallen by the wayside for the summer, that's your first note that your business might be stalling. Do not avoid your tracking. Okay. So, one of the huge things, of course, you always have to have is a clear goal and a vision. Where are you going? Okay. How many of you know how many closings you'd like to have in the next 90 days? Take a minute and calculate that for yourselves. Okay. How many closings does your business need in the next 90 days to get you ahead of where you're at currently? To catch you up for exactly where you wanted to be mid-year, or to set you up for ultimate success in the second half. Okay, Megan, I see you shaking your head. You got a number in mind? Okay, I love it. Everybody else, give me a thumbs up when you've got one or say got it in the chat box. Okay, I want you to start there. Okay, now, how many of you off the top of your head, when you look at that number, know exactly what that means and what it would mean for you every week that you'd need to do to get there? It's usually not something that's super clear right off the top of your head. Do any of you have that pretty easily? We're going to look at the next one. Okay, so here are the numbers to do something like that. All right, just as a show of hands, how many of you said closer to 4 closings in the next 90 days? Love it. How many of you said closer to 8 closings in the next 90 days? Okay, love it. So either way, you're going to use this. If you want more than that, you just multiply these numbers by the 4 more you want in the next 90 days, or half them. If you're like, this is great, I'm going for 2. Okay, but here's what you have to know. We're going to go with the 8 closings. Okay, to get 8 closings in 90 days, you're going to have to sign one contract a week. Sign one contract a week. Okay? Think about that. If you sign one contract every 2 weeks, you're at 4 closings at least in the next 90 days. That's one thing that you can just focus on. However, in order to get those signed contracts, we have to go on appointments, right? So in order to do that, you need to be doing 1 to 2 appointments a week. Okay? 2 appointments a week means 100 contacts. So the numbers are for every 50 contacts you make in a week, that should lead you to 1 closing, not of course in the next 7 days, but in the next 90 days. Okay? So now I want you to do the math on your own closings. Okay? Whatever your number was there. I'm going to stick with 8. And what that 8 closings means is that I have to make 100, I have to have 100 consistent weekly conversations. Okay? Now, just to get a feel for who's on here, how many of you 100 feels so overwhelming I'm ready to quit? Be honest. Hey, okay, Heidi, thank you for your honesty. Great, great. I love it. I love it. That's okay. I'm going to hopefully help with that as we go. Okay. And for those of you that it doesn't feel like that's so overwhelming, I'm ready to quit, right? That's awesome. And you know you can do it. Go get it. Okay. All right. Let's talk about how. So where I'm going to start is where this might fail. Okay. So if you've ever tried to do something like this before, if you've ever said, okay, for the next 60 days or for the next 90 days, I am going to make 100 contacts every week. Okay? The reason you might fail is all the reasons on this screen, right? Okay, so let's make sure we're building a plan that's very easy to repeat. Okay, so the first thing is knowing that key number of how many contacts you have to make every week. And then you've got to know who you're calling, right? How many of you are really clear on if you need now business or if you need future business or if you need both? Throw it in the chat box. Both. Okay? That's really important to know, everybody, because your business will swing. Okay? You will have times where you are bombarded with future business and you have no now business. And then you'll have time where you're bombarded with now business and have no future business. Okay, so the key to this is really understanding your business. Where has it come from? What does your future pipeline look like? And where are the gaps? Okay, so now I want you to look at this. If you answered both, then you should pick a couple of these from each place and start making your contacts around that. Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. How many need now business? Let's start with now business. Okay, so these are the options for your now business. Okay, any hot pipeline contacts that you haven't heard from or can get get a conversation going quickly. Past clients with immediate needs. Okay, those will kind of fly out at you. Hopefully, you know them from the future business because you know your database well enough. And past clients will be the ones that most often fly out of the woodwork because they already trust you and have worked with you and they know they can get there a little later in the process, right? If you need now business, you should be doing 1 to 2 open houses a week. Okay? You have to talk to 50 people. Okay? To get 4 closings, you have to talk to 50 people this week. An open house is an amazing way to talk to people you haven't talked to before. If you can get 8 to 10 people in an open house and do 2 of those on a weekend, you're halfway through your list. Okay? Now you go back through your pipeline, right? Where are all those people that you've had from past open houses? Reconnect with those people. I guarantee you've got another list of 10 of those people you can reach out to, right? Any of your past clients, if you're not reaching out to them, make sure you do, okay? Your Facebook, your social media, right? All of that stuff can help you create conversations with people. And they do not even always have to be about real estate. If they know you're a realtor, it's going to come up and you don't even have to be thinking or talking about real estate. But the key is that you figure out how you get strategic to get out and have that many conversations every single week. Okay? One of the things you've got to be purposeful as well is remember where you're at currently. So our brain tends to go business and personal, right? It kind of splits sometimes. So when I'm running my kids here and there, I'm in my personal, right? When I'm taking them to Target, when I'm taking them to the pool, that kind of stuff, I'm not often thinking business at that time. And the most purposeful thing I can do is remind myself I am still a business owner in those times, right? And get purposeful about the people I'm seeing there and making sure you're asking about their real estate needs if you need to. Be more purposeful this time of year so that you can make value out of where you're already going and already being. Okay, now let's look at your future business. Your sphere of influence, right? That is so huge. You have got to be touching your sphere of influence every single quarter, whether it be a phone call, a text message, a personalized email to them. You have got to be reaching out to them 4 times a year. Okay, so if you do not know who to call, start there. If you do not feel comfortable calling them, DM them. Meet them where they're at, where your relationship feels comfortable. Just make sure you're creating conversations with who you know so that they can create them back to you. Here's some other great ideas on this screen to build networks to create conversations. Okay? How many of you are involved with community organizations, networking groups, church, right? Other business owners. Okay, be thinking about those people, right? So you think, who do I call? You have plenty of people to call. You just have to get out of your own way sometimes and remember you've got to get in front of them. Okay? So, did each of you at least pick 1 or 2 places you can focus on having conversations and going out and creating the conversations you need from these places? Yeah? Did you identify them and write them down? Okay. I love it. So now, okay, here's what we do often in our business right now, right? Because we're managing a lot of transactions, we're managing a lot of personal stuff, we're managing a lot of the to-dos. And if everything is important, nothing leads, right? So you have to get all this stuff done. And if your lead generation is happening on top of all of it, you won't get there, right? If everything else leads first, that becomes your last resort versus flipping that on its head and making sure the most important things get done first. Okay? So, what are the 3 things in this list? Not 5, only 3 that would move your business forward in the next 90 days if you prioritized that on a daily and weekly basis? They're the ones you picked in the chat box. I know what mine are. Same. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay. So get your priorities. These are yours. These are specific to you and your business and what you need to be doing in the next 90 days to make sure that you are accomplishing the gap in your business if you have one, or what's really working and where you need to double down for the next half of this year. Okay? So now we know how many conversations we have to have, right? We know, do we need now business or future business? Okay. We know we need to measure weekly, and we know where we need to prioritize. Now we've got to find out, when are we going to do all this, right? Because this is how your brain feels and thinks on a daily basis, right? I have all this stuff to do. When am I going to do this? This is a normal functioning brain. So in order to help that normal functioning brain, you really have to be diligent and clear with your calendar. Okay? So let's talk about this. How many of you are living by this time block already? And you've created the habits around this time block? I see a couple on here that might be doing it. Let's talk through this in specifics. Okay? So the way this time block came about is because when I went back and reflected on how I was building my calendar when I was selling 100 houses a year, this is what it looked like. Okay, so this is all I time blocked for. 10 hours a week. 10. No more than that. What I have found through coaching many agents, if you try to time block more than that, you'll fail every time. Okay, you need 30 hours in a week for all the other stuff, right? So make sure you save that for it, or you will fail on your time block every single time. Okay, so every Monday afternoon from 1 to 3 is when I recommend you study the market and do all of your seller and buyer weekly updates. Okay, how many of you are familiar with what I'm saying when I talk to you about the weekly updates, the buyer and seller weekly updates? Awesome. At the end, I'm going to share the QR code that will take you to all the resources. Okay, so make a note for yourself to download the script book. The 2026, what would you say, script book is on my resources page. And there is a seller weekly update and a buyer weekly update. It tells you exactly what you should say to them in the email every single week. It tells you how you explain what we're going to watch every single week for them to either be a successful buyer or a successful seller. Okay. And it tells you what reports you need to set up to drop into your email inbox. So when you sit down at 1 o'clock on Monday afternoon, you have all the numbers you need to compile this information for every buyer and every seller. Okay. I promise if you implement this habit and this only habit, it will change your business significantly. You will get back so much time you don't even recognize you're losing. If anyone has implemented this and has had some success, throw it in the chat box for others to see. Okay, it is a strategic list of what we're watching in the market, what we're giving back to the buyers and the sellers, and it is to stay 3 steps ahead of them in their process so that we're leading them through it. Okay, so make sure, yep, I'm going to show you, Megan, I've got a picture of it, actually, the scorecard review. Okay, so Tuesdays and Thursdays, this is your lead generation days. Lead gen, lead follow-up. These were also the days I did most of my appointments. Now, go back a couple sheets. This is something that I think we get in our way about. Okay, if I need to close 8, how many appointments do I need every week? 2. Okay, so Here's why that's super important. That means you only have to time block 4 hours for appointments in a week, right? So a lot of the times we think, where are we going to get our appointments? And if you remember, really all you need to be having is two to hit your goal or one to hit your goal. It's pretty easy to say, okay, where can I chunk in that appointment window? For myself and my family, Tuesday evenings. We just made sure we had childcare every Tuesday evening. That was my night I worked. And I knew I had two appointments. If someone needed an evening, it was really easy to hit one of them on the Tuesday evening, right? And then the other one throughout the week in an afternoon sometime. Uh-oh, sorry, I went ahead of myself. Okay, so appointments. If you can handle them, then you usually do need a weekend for appointments, right? And I knew Saturday mornings were the best time for appointments. So I kind of blocked that, right? If they fit in there, great. Sometimes they didn't, everybody, and I didn't kill myself or say, oh, I can't take them or anything, right? But if I had a guide for my day, then that meant when I went to set my first appointment, it was like, okay, it's going on Tuesday or Saturday or Wednesday afternoon. Where can it fit? Okay, so get really clear with yourself on what you're actually setting time for. Okay, let's jump to Friday. Megan, great question. So Friday is the day you do your wrap up, your CEO time. Mine actually happened Thursday afternoon because I didn't do a lot of lead gen. I allowed myself to be reactive on Fridays. Okay, because sometimes you just have to have that. I also allowed for like personal appointments, family appointments, stuff like that on Fridays. So I did not time block my Fridays. It did not mean I worked every single stinking Friday, right? I did, but it wasn't a time blocked day for me. So it doesn't matter. But whenever you're wrapping your week up nicely, you need to have some CEO time with yourself. It should be an agendaed meeting you have with yourself. Okay. And your scorecard is on your business plan. And Megan, I'm going to show you the picture of that in 2 slides. Okay. But you may need to check back in with your sellers and your buyers, right? Update them. If you've given them a really good detailed market update on Monday, you probably won't need to. But sometimes there are some people you just need to wrap it back up before the weekends and before you go into your weekend to make sure you're not going to work all weekend. Okay? Scorecard review. This is when you track. This is when you sit down with your business plan and you put in your numbers for the week. You're going to say, how many conversations did I have? If my goal was 50 and I did 17, awesome. And now I got to make a change for next week if my goal is really 50. Okay. So this is why tracking is so important, and having a scorecard every single week is so important. You need to go in and you need to be measuring these things. Okay. Then it's time to figure out, now what are my next steps? Now I see where I ended. I see how my week went. I've updated my pipeline. I've updated everything. And now what do I need to change, duplicate, or do better for next week? And that's your next steps. Okay. If anyone has any questions, let me know. So all of this should just be 10 hours of time blocking. Okay. It's Monday afternoon for 2 hours, Friday for 1 hour for your CEO time, and then 2.5 hours Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for your scripting and role playing, your lead generation, and your lead follow up. If you need that spelled out, I've got it somewhere also. Okay, so we know what your priorities need to be. We know what you need to be accomplishing every week, right? And now you need to get really, really, really clear. Okay, we need really specific habits. So we know if we need now business or future business. We know if we need so many conversations a day. Okay, now I want you to figure out your rhythm in your week and be specific with yourself. I want you to attempt to create 3 specific habits that you will start building next week, and try to look back in 90 days and say, wow, that's a habit I built. Okay, we're going to take a few minutes for that. So I want you guys to think through this. I want you to throw some of your specifics in the chat box. Let's talk about them. Let's help each other with them. But I want you to pick 3 habits and be very specific with yourself. about what those habits are that you need to implement. I'm doing the same thing for my business currently, guys, so I'm working with you. We're going to talk about AI a little bit throughout, or at the end, I'm going to give you some really good prompts and stuff to use, but I want to talk about AI right here. If you're wondering, what should my CEO meeting be with myself, go throw it in to your AI and say, give me a meeting I need to have with myself every Friday afternoon. Create an agenda for my meeting, right? Tell it what you want to do. Tell it, I want to close 8 houses in the next 90 days. Create an agenda that I can go through with myself every single Friday to make sure I'm on track and to review what I need to change to pivot quickly. All right, tell me some of your habits. Did you write new ones? Did you pick from this? Sometimes those times and days don't work. I want to get some examples. If someone's willing to at least share one, let's talk through how we're going to build a habit around that. And if anyone needs help, then definitely throw it in there because we'll use yours as an example. What's one of your habits you want to build in the next 90 days? We'll have to use one of mine. Anyone? Anyone? Okay, we'll use mine. So let's use the example of every morning at 9 a.m. I'll start calls. Okay, that's fine to say that, right? How am I going to build a habit around it? Who has some recommendations for me on how I might help myself build a habit on making sure that every morning I'm going to start my calls at 9 a.m.? Throw them in the chat box. Coach me through this. Megan, what perfect timing. I'm so glad you said that. You're not the only one feeling this. And here's what I'll tell you. It's 9 times out of 10 when I say to people, okay, what needs to happen in your business? They just say, I just need to make the calls. I know. And here's why you fail, because it's not a habit. It's not in your calendar, right? All these reasons. So don't get frustrated because we're going to build it. Okay, so Wendy, talk to me about that. Simple reward each time you succeed.
Well, what motivates you? So, if I've coached agents who've used like chocolate. If they make their 10 phone calls, they'll get a special piece of chocolate. Nothing big, but just simple. If I do a week of my 10 calls, so 50 calls in a week, I may give myself an extra hour outside reading a book, you know, not necessarily expensive things, but knowing what motivates you and just.
Mhm. Yes. Okay, so creating a reward for yourself, right? That's going to help you have a habit, create a habit, right? So think about something you already do as a habit. Somebody throw one in the chat box. What's something you never miss? Something you don't even have to think about happening in your life, in your week, in your day, in your whatever. Come on, somebody's got one. I know the 3 common ones that I use. Yes, Janice. Okay, so Janice paints every day. Janice, how many days in a row have you painted? Oh, you're gonna have to write it. We couldn't hear you, but it's a lot. And she has done it consistently. Okay. And you're going to have to get your chat box up here, Janice, because I'm going to ask you some questions about it. So, what's the reward for painting?
I can sleep.
Okay, it's her come down before bed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so she gets a huge reward from doing that. Okay, so that's the first thing. If your goal is to start your calls every day at 9, you've got to have a way to either reward yourself or sometimes you have to punish yourself. Go back to what Wendy said. What motivates you? Most of the time, the people I coach, I'm going to tell you, we start off with a positive one and we tend to walk over our positive ones a lot of the times. And it's unfortunately until it hurts, right? The one that hurts people the most is when I say you have to pick an organization you'd never get money to and write a check to that organization and hang it up. And if you do not make your calls, you have to cash that. You have to send it to that person. Pick an agent you don't want to support, pick, right? Sometimes that's a really hard motivation. And it will become a habit when it's important enough to you that there is a strong reward or a punishment that goes along with it. Now, here's the saddest part about us and being realtors. 8 closings isn't a big enough reward to motivate us. Isn't that crazy? How much money is 8 closings? $80,000. If I said, guys, I'm going to hand you $80,000 and all you have to do is figure out how to talk to 100 people a week, we don't think of it that way. Isn't that funny? We do not connect closings as enough of a motivator for us to get us getting on the phone and making these calls. But it just happens. It just is what it is, right? So figure out what does motivate you. If the closings and the income are not enough to get you on the phone every day, I a little bit had it easy because, right, that's what I had to do. I had to bring the money in and I had to make sure that it was coming in all the time. So that was a really good motivator for me to make sure that I had that money coming in. And if you're not clear on yourself about what you need, that could be a lack of what's motivating you to create this habit. It's because you're not truly clear on what you need. Okay, so let's go back. We're still building this habit of what else would I need to do? I need to create a reward or a punishment for myself to make sure that I get there. What else do I need to do to make sure that I'm starting my calls every day at 9? You guys know them. Throw them out here. Okay, I need to have some accountability. What's that accountability going to look like? It needs to be on my calendar. Oh, Janice, you're on mute. So, okay, you've got to have it on your calendar. It's not going to happen at 9 if it's not on your calendar and if the 9 o'clock time is not protected from everything else, right? So you have to keep it at the same time. The reason church becomes such an easy habit is because it's the same time every week. You know exactly where you're going. You know exactly what you're doing. You know probably what you're wearing. You know how long it takes you to get there, right? But you had to go through all those steps first to make it a really easy habit for yourself, right? So think of it the same way. I'm building the same kind of habit with making my calls, and I need to know, who do I need to be calling when I sit down at 9 o'clock to make those calls? Right? What am I going to say to them? All that has to happen before 9 o'clock, right? I wouldn't make it to church if I had no idea where the church was. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, it's 9 o'clock. Let's go to church. All right. I don't have one. Right? Okay, that's what we do with our lead generation. Okay, let's make calls. I don't know what I'm going to say and who I'm going to call. Right? And if you're showing up like that, if you're saying, oh, let's go to church at 9 o'clock, but you don't have a church, you don't know where you're going, you don't know if you like that person or not at that church, if it even aligns with it, right? So many things are going to happen. Okay, so you've got to start taking your lead generation as seriously as the most important habits you've already built in your life and build it similarly. Know who you're going to call. Know what you're going to say. Make sure there's more than enough people on your list when you start the week. If you want to reach out to 100 people, there are people to call everywhere. You got to get the nerve to, right, make the calls. But if you want to call those people, you got to know who you're going to call, and you probably need a little more than what you thought you'd need. That's how you make sure you're extra prepared when you go in. Okay? You have to protect it. Your time block means nothing if you don't protect it. It has to be a non-negotiable with yourself. If it's not a non-negotiable, just forget it. Don't time block for it. Okay? So that has to be the other thing. If you are like, I will be there every morning at 9 a.m. and I understand the reward, I understand how important it is, and now I'm just going to make sure nothing ever, never gets in the way. And what does that mean? That means if someone wants to schedule a closing at 9 a.m., I am busy until 10:30 because I'm lead generating at 9 a.m. That's the only way I'm going to build that habit to get there every day at 9 a.m. Okay? So focus on these habits. Make sure you're being very clear with what your habit is, and then make sure you're building all the steps around it to make it easy for yourself to get you to church every week on time. Megan, here's the scorecard. Many of you have seen this, but this is a tab in the business plan. So if you go to my resources, there is a spreadsheet that calculates your plan for you. Okay, you then have to go implement this plan. This isn't your plan. This is your measurables for your plan. Okay, so on the summary page, it will have you put in where your business currently comes from, how many closings are you looking to have, then it will generate your tracking sheet for every single week. And I took them off because it was too small, but it will also summarize your quarter every month for you and every quarter for how you're doing. So if you're keeping a scorecard every week at your CEO time right now, you could literally go back in and look at your whole thing, and it will tell you, am I off or am I on in any of these places in my business? Okay? If you are not tracking, don't go back, just start now. Start tracking in June and just use June as your parameter to set the baseline for what might happen next year. Okay? It's never too late to start any of this stuff. That's one of the key things. If you haven't had a scorecard, this is what you're going to start very next week, is tracking these things every single week at your CEO time. This will show you what habits you need to build. Right? And they should all go in line. So once you start tracking, you start realizing, oh, I need that habit to capture this. I need that habit to capture this. Okay? So this is a simple little super important, silly 10-minute step that you can take every week to absolutely project your business in a direction you didn't even see coming. And Jay threw in the chat box that the QR code at the end will let you get to all of the resources and to this business plan. So if you haven't downloaded it, create yourself one, get your summary page filled out, and start tracking your stuff next week. Okay. The biggest, most important part of the scorecard, guys, is not being perfect. I want to say that a million times over. We are not going for perfect. What we're going for is, did I do what I said I would do? If not, how far off was I? Okay. It is very common for someone to be like, oh, I'm definitely making those contacts every week, and coming very short, or going way over and being like, okay, wait, I'm talking to twice as many people as I needed to, but I'm not getting the results I should. Okay. So you got to know which one is happening. Right? Did I avoid any work? Anytime you've got those zeros in there, am I missing any opportunities that could have happened throughout that week that I didn't see? Here's the most important part, is how do you pivot from where you are now? We can never go backwards. So the tracking is going to be backwards summary. We can't go backwards, but what we can do is say, okay, here's where we're at, and now how am I going to do different next week to get different results? And if you aren't measuring those things week to week to week, you can go a really long time with no results and not realize it. Okay, so that's the other thing. You've got to track because you may be doing the work and not be getting the results you should. And that's another gap in your business. Okay, the lead sources. How many of you track closely your lead sources from your closings and from your conversations? It's a super important one. You will see in your business that there are patterns that come about in your lead sources. All of a sudden, for whatever reason, your friends will start just flying off the shelf and referring you. And you're like, okay, what happened in my friend world that might have contributed to that? Right? Why is all of a sudden my family, lots of stuff's coming from there? Church, lots of stuff is coming from there. Are there situations in the market? Are there situations in their lives, right? What could be happening? So really getting clear on your lead sources. Where are leads coming from? What's working? How can you double down on what's working? And where are there opportunities? On the summary page of the business plan, those of you who have filled it out, the bottom is your sources. So you take the number of closings you'd had, and I want you to break them down into where each of them came from and all the different sources, right? Your sphere. Within your sphere, you need to understand, was it family? Was it family referrals? Two totally different things, right? And you've got to get clear on what is producing results for you and where you might be missing results. Anytime there's a 0 in one of those places, that is a big O for opportunity for you. That is a place you could say, stop right now. How could I go after business in that place? Okay, so having that summary page and really knowing your lead source opportunities is important. And then the biggest thing is, how do I pivot? Right? How do I go where I'm at? No judgment on where I'm at, but how do I pivot to go a slightly different direction for next week? Forward, backwards, sideways, whichever way you need to go. Okay? So let's talk AI. Okay, here's some of the ways that I see it totally helping. I'm going to give you some prompts that I want you to use, because I will tell you this conversation is one of them that you can get very specific very quickly with your own business. This used to be something I'd have to take clients back through lots of data to get these answers quickly. Now, if you have a spreadsheet even of your closings, you can throw it into AI and have it do a lot of great things for you. Okay, here's some of the simple things that you can do with AI just around helping you get more efficient. Okay, so anytime you say something more than twice, it needs to be a system. Anytime you do something more than twice, it needs to be a system. What does that mean? If I am calling to explain to a buyer what they're going to see on their inspection report, and I find myself doing this twice, I need to stop and write that into an email, right? And create a system around that. This is a conversation I'm finding myself having. How do I systematize that? Let's write it in an email and let's put it in the process where it needs to go. So now, as soon as their inspection's done, they're going to get an email from me saying, here's what you're going to see when you get your inspection report later from your inspector. Here's what to expect. Here's what it's going to look like. Here's what we're focused on. Okay? So those are the kind of conversations you see yourself having all the time, over and over and over, right? In every aspect of your day, if you are doing something more than twice at all, it needs to be a system. Okay? So use AI for that. Here's some prompts that will help you. I highlighted some of the most important things, okay? I want you to take this and do what you can with it, and I want you to put your calendar in there. Has anyone ever had AI analyze their calendar? Analyze my calendar for me. Tell me how I spent my time. Where am I having leaks? Where am I missing priorities and patterns? And then I want you to recommend a realistic weekly time blocking schedule for me. And then be specific. Make it practical, coachable, and easy to add to my Google Calendar if that's what you use. Okay? This is the detailed work that AI can do for you now. If you have never had it analyze your calendar, do it. If you don't have enough stuff on your calendar, what a great thing to do for the next 7 days is create a detailed calendar so that you can upload it into AI and have it analyze it for you. Okay? Have it help you create these things. The scorecard. Megan, here's a way to build your own scorecard if you need to. Okay, so that scorecard in the business plan is absolutely editable. You can change it, you can hide things, you can add things, whatever you want to do. And sometimes it's just too much and it is not going to work. I want you to build the scorecard that works for you. Your scorecard can be as simple as a Post-it note pack with numbers on it. And every time you make a call, you take it off and throw it in the trash, right? I don't care. You have to have a scorecard so you know where you're going, okay? That's another thing. You can jump in, have it help you create your scorecard. And you can say, here's the kind of person I am. What kind of scorecard should I be using? Right? I suck at this kind of accountability and tracking. What could help me on it? Okay, so this is where you can use these key topics and have AI help you go deeper and get more specific faster with your actual business and what you need to be doing. Okay, where I may be falling up behind, make sure you say make it practical, easy to update, focused on helping me make better business decisions. Write all of that stuff in there when you're telling your AI what you want it to do so that it can help you. And Coach Julie Downey, here's my absolute favorite one, act as my real estate business coach. Put it in there, you guys. You want your AI to coach you through everything. Tell it, I want you to be a hardcore accountability business coach for my real estate. And then what's working? What's missing? What should I focus on next week? Okay? Have it be your real estate coach. Have it help you build your accountability. Use AI to get you where you need to be and make sure you're letting these things happen and you're not just walking away from this with some ideas and you're actually putting these things into practice and into effect. Okay? So now, before we get off, we have 6 minutes, and I want you to make sure on your notes as you leave that you have all of these things spelled out. Okay? How many closings are you going for in the next 90 days? And what are the weekly actions that means you need to take to get there? If you write those and are still struggling, you say, okay, I see that number's 50, but who in the heck am I going to call every week? 50 people. Let's talk about it. Okay. Don't sit there and wonder. Reach out to me. Let's talk about it. We've got most of us. Let's brainstorm. Let's mastermind it together. Let's help you get through that. But the first thing you've got to know is how many do you need, right? And then you know how you're going to go out and get it. Make sure you know your top 3 priorities, your non-negotiables. What are the top 3 things I've got to be doing in my business? And how am I going to build those in my calendar and make sure they are non-negotiable? You know, if church is that important, you get there every week, and why and how. You know, if your hair appointment is that important, you know how you get there every 4 months and why and how. Okay, you can do it. You're already living habits at a very high level. You're just not prioritizing your lead gen. Okay, but make it non-negotiable with yourself. Make sure you know where what your CEO habits are that you're going to build. Is it going to be a habit around getting to your calls at 9 every day? Is it going to be a habit around weekly buyer and seller updates every Monday afternoon? Get specific, and then make sure you know where you're going to track this stuff. Okay, this is one I would like for as many people to throw in the chat box as you can. What is your first action after this webinar? First action after this webinar. Throw it in there. And I'm going to keep this up for a couple minutes so you guys can all make sure you've worked through this stuff. Love it, Janice. Give AI my calendar. I love it, love it, love it. Okay, yes, update my calendar. Put in the time blocking. Time blocking on your calendar can be an accountability tool just of itself because, good job, Megan, Making yourself look at it every single day and not do it is accountability. Okay, so put it on your calendar. I tell everyone I coach your lead generation needs to go on your calendar until the day you retire. If it is not on your calendar, that day's today that you retire. Okay, don't retire today. Put it on your calendar and make sure you're doing it forever. Okay, and then make sure this is what you're doing in the next 90 days. Know exactly what you're going to do, know how you're going to put it on your calendar. Know what you're going to do consistently, how you're going to track it, and where and how you're going to adjust every week. You guys are awesome. Thanks for spending the hour with me. I hope you got a lot of great stuff. Really focus. Take some time after this and go implement. Block your calendars, do your work, and let me hold you accountable if you need it. All right. I'll see you all next month. Bye, everybody.